Alrighty, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Not much. How you feeling a little better today?
I am. Yeah, just sometimes with between work and eating, I guess leftover shrimp from a Mexican restaurant isn't the wisest of ideas. But
I can see that. I had the similar issue with the biscuits and gravy at a gas station. I don't.
ooh,
I was young. I was young
yeah.
and reckless.
Now I've heard. Are you're not from the Carolinas, are you?
No, I'm from Oregon.
Okay. I was saying, like, I guess in Carolina, like South Carolina, like some of the best biscuits and gravy are from a gas station. I was like,
Well, I
all
mean,
right, I'd try it.
I haven't spent too much time. I've been to Carolina, I think, one time, but I think it was North Carolina. But I've been to Virginia a whole bunch, and the Wawas
Mm,
there are fantastic. So they're like gas stations, but they have like
yeah.
little like kiosks where you can order sandwiches. It's great. I love it. Everybody likes Wawa. But yeah, anyway, I should probably introduce you. No, I don't think none of the boys have hopped in yet, but they're probably gonna know who you are. But in case someone's watching that doesn't know who you are, Eric J. Crew, you work with Creative Juggernaut, and you are working to develop the tabletop games. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. Um, and
All correct so far.
okay, and last time you were on, we pretty much talked about like kind of the bigger scope. Like you guys are generating, or you're making like 3 games, an RPG, a
Yep.
miniature like a minis like tactical game, and then a
Hmm.
large scale war game. But they all kind of like you could literally kind of they mesh together really well. I guess like you can play
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
RPG, and then like if a battle breaks out, you can move into like the tactical game, and then
Yep.
so on and so forth. But we
Yeah.
didn't really
Yeah.
get into the A system, so that's why you're here today to talk about the A system, which I guess governs all 3 games.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the ACE system was developed to be again like just another system for gaming. So much like GURPS or MERPS or like any of those types of things, and D&D and the Pathfinder type of system, and they've all got their own. And we were just looking for something that really meshed with like the feel and grit of combat in modern warfare with like some interesting mechanics that again we wanted something that we knew we wanted from the very beginning to release those 3 different types of games like that, like we wanted something to play at the Warhammer 40K style battle space game,
Yeah.
where it was like warfare of full armies, and then that squad based tactical combat, and then also a role playing game. Brent was really adamant about that. And then so we were looking around, and like years ago, Blaine and I started playing around with some ideas, and then we shopped around for some different companies to like get involved, and any of the ideas that were pitched to us were just like it's just not quite right, right for the feel. And then uh, Blaine and Brent took a leap of faith and were like, well, Eric, why don't you go ahead and run with it? The only one of us who doesn't have game design experience in their actual like history of like making money. I was like, all right, cool, let's run with it. Uh, so, it was based off of some of the stuff that Blaine and I had originally like pitched back and forth, just bouncing ideas off of each other. And,
Uh-huh.
and he had taken that one, ran with it. And then I took that back and really just like overhauled the things that didn't quite fit with like my mind, what my mind was seeing, um, and really just dove into what ended up becoming a full like set of mechanics for doing things, I guess is the best way to say it. It's like so the ACE system, as I had mentioned in the previous stream, was is the so I've got my notes here just so I can I'm
Nice.
heavily dyslexic, and I want to make sure I say the things that I want to say correctly. So, um, yeah, so that's the abilities, circumstances, and equipment, right? Those are the 3 things that govern you doing something properly, or succeeding at something.
Hmm.
And so, even though this is, the tactical miniatures game is combat, when you get into like the role playing game, it's not just the combat things that you're doing and are going to have to roll to succeed for. In
Hmm.
in D&D, you've got the stat checks, or you've
Yeah.
got skill checks and things like that. So this governs that, all that, and so I try to boil it down to pretty simplistic as a concept, and then like build onto it from there and make it as simple as possible. But one of the biggest things that's like a difference in the mechanic of how we do things versus any of the other systems, and it's really it's really a novel concept, is anytime you're doing anything, some of the modifiers modify your target number, and other ones modify the target dice. So like the actual size of die, not the number of dice, the size of the die that you're rolling. So
it's like a D4 to a D6.
Exactly. So and unlike conventional thinking, that's actually a bad move.
Oh, okay.
Because we're aiming for, like, say, the target of 1, right? That's the best roll you can get is a 1.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to roll as low as possible. So if you've, say, got a target of 2 and you got a D4, that's a 50-50 chance. As soon as you go to a D6, you're down to 33%. You still are rolling for a 2 or better, a 1 or a 2. But like by changing the die size, you've immediately cut your chances for them.
Yeah.
And it really allowed us to play around with, okay, so you as a character are fully proficient in this specific, like in rifles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're using a rifle, great. Then by being proficient, you've moved your target number to, say, a 3. And then when you're firing that equipment might have a modifier that says when you're firing single shot, it's just a regular, ability. And that's a D10. If you switch it to burst mode, now you get 3 rolls because you're firing 3 shots, but they're all D12s, right? So you're going to make that like, okay, in this moment, do I want to send more lead downstream or downfield?
Mm-hmm.
And then like, okay, well, some weapons then have fully automatic. You're like, okay, that gives it 1 more level. So now you're at D20s. You have 3, but now you're rolling, say, 10 of them. And you're rolling 10 D20, but you need 3 on each of them. So it's really kind of in any given moment, you've got to make that tactical decision. Am I going to try and just go for it? And then also now I've depleted my magazine. Or am I going to just like really try and do a precise shot to like make this one count? Obviously, you've got snipers who are like getting sit and you're going to aim for multiple periods of time, which is going to every moment that you're taking to aim is actually going to increase the number that you're trying to hit. So instead of a 3, it'll go to a 4, to a 5. And so you're basically just like really trying to game that system of take my breath, do my thing,
Mm-hmm.
take my shot. And some of them, it makes sense to, make that single shot and try and make it, count as much as possible. And other ones, you've got your Marines carrying a machine gun and they're just going to want to send everything possible down.
Yeah.
Just, I'll reload later.
So is the, you mentioned the target number. So it sounds like you want that to be higher. Is that like you need to hit that on your die roll to hit the enemy?
That or better. Yep. That is correct. So
you want that number high, you want your die number low.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. So if you ever get to the point where you say your target number is a 4 and you're rolling a D4, it's 100% chance like you're going to succeed in that check. But you get that down to a 1 and you've got a D100, you're just like still a chance. Like that's so you're saying there's a chance.
Is that you mentioned last time? You kind of talked about use the like police as an example where they needed like a 50% success rate, and you can. I think you said you could adjust like how difficult things are, like depending on how long you want to be playing for.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So just by adjusting that number, right? So the standard things are based off of, like I said, the default in the game kind of as a trained individual, trained character. So again, like your grunts and or your the kind of the crabs and stuff like that using a weapon. Is going to be roughly about 30%, right? So you're a 3 on the D10. Those are kind of a good place to start. And all you got to do is say, all right, if we want to make this a little bit easier, we just adjust that number up by 1.
Okay.
And right there, it's not that's not a 10% increase. That's a 10% increase on the base.
Yeah.
And when so if I can do anything to say, I'm going to switch that D10 down to a D8, you've just moved to it from a 3 out of 8 to a 4 out of 8. Like that's a pretty significant chance. And, that ends up making a big difference to when you've got characters that you're doing things to increase your chances or change those die, like your equipment and the circumstances, really make a big difference for what you're rolling and how many of them you're rolling. So it's a real easy, like, okay, do we want to play just like things are going to be mown down? Move it to a 5. Like that we can agree as players to just, play through this quickly. Sometimes if you want to, get through a scenario, you want to play a handicap on if it's the battle master playing that, or that what did we decide on last time? What was the name that we called that?
A BISC, a battle space commander.
Yeah, the battle space commander. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the BISC. Yeah, I liked that one.
I think someone in the Discord said you could risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah. So the BISC can say, like, okay, we're going to give the players a handicap, and so they need, we're just going to increase their number by 1, and the bad guys, whether that's aliens or other infantry or other humans, will be they're still at a 3 for their default. Because one of those things that I learned long time ago, being a dungeon master in D&D, is they were very clear in that DM's guide. Anything that increases chaos is inherently against the players, because again, the dungeon master doesn't care if you lose a minion, right?
Yeah.
The character loses. The player cares if they lose their character, and if there's a 1 in 100 shot of headshot and killing somebody instantly, okay, that's the players only have 5 rolls between the 5 players to do that. And I've got a load of minions, so it's like the chances of it happening for me against them is much better as the dungeon master. So
yeah,
I wanted to make it so that, again, people can play and have fun the way they want to play and have fun. So just quickly say, okay, got it. Handicap, we're playing an easy scenario. We adjust that just by 1 or 2 or whatever it is, just to make it, like, I think I mentioned before, like my mom's, maybe I didn't, but like my mom's favorite game on the computer is Doom.
Yeah, I don't think you did, but that's awesome.
Oh, okay, yeah. If she had a bad day at work, she would come home and she'd be like, "Can you put on the game? Put on the game. Put on God mode. Put on the unlimited ammo." And like, so you just put in the codes, and then she would just go around and just like shoot demons, and she's like, and she's happy. She's like, oh, that's what her enjoyment is. Like for the rest of us, it's like it's defeating the challenge.
Yeah.
And so everybody's got their own way to play. We really wanted to like dive into that and get people the ability to play how they want, where they want, doing that type of, like making scenarios they want to have. We talked about last time the ability to print off maps for your area, your Costco, your neighborhood, and like put on things on there and say, okay, here's how I defend. Well, in order for that to actually work, obviously, it's still going to have the mechanics, and that's kind of what you're bringing us into today, was the ACE.
Yeah, I'm definitely, as far as like my play style, like I've only ever done D&D in one game of Warhammer, but I'm a big rules is written guy. Like I don't like fluffing it and like cutting corners. I'm like, to me it's more creative and it's more interesting to like find a solution while adhering to the rules. That's how I like to play.
Right. Yeah.
I enjoy that much more. But yeah. So with the whole, I wrote down a question this time. I brought a pen and pad for the questions so they don't fly out of my head as I'm paying attention. So you mentioned like the burst fire, like full auto. Are the weapons is real, especially like, I don't know about the RPG ones, probably more prevalent, but like in the tactical game and the war game, is ammo tracking going to be a thing? And like, is it going to be like a full magazine worth of bullets?
So the default in the miniatures game isn't going to track every bullet. There's basically like, there's a chance that, you've ran out. Like, so you'll basically do checks on that to find out, like, did I run out? Or like, but in the role-playing game, especially, like, every bullet matters. Like you could choose to track all of that. Like I said, one of the things of the game and having the 3 different games based off of the same system is you can just say, I'm not into tracking ammo. I'll do the check to see if I need to reload. But other people are, again, like, I shot 5 rounds out of this magazine and it was faster because I don't know what's coming. I'm going to reload and I still have that magazine with 5 missing. So if I run out, I'm going to switch to that one, and there's 5 missing from that. And like
Mhm.
people are going to, gamers especially, like I care about that, and I want to play that way.
Yeah.
You think of one of the things that I like really tried to make like the pinnacle of what human kind of existence within this, like how you could operate, or a peak human operator, I guess is what you would call that, is from the John Wick movies. And we know that takes it beyond, like, it becomes a little bit farcical, but almost everything in that movie, like the gun fu is based in reality, and they're trying to make it realistic. And I'm like, okay, so this is like if you could be perfect type of thing. Like, and even though he's not perfect in all of it,
Yeah.
it's pretty darn close. But you'll see things like overloading. So I've got one in the chamber, ghost loading, like, so you've got, your Benelli with 12, right? You can hold 12 in there if you ghost load one in, and you're just like, okay, that's great. If you know how to do that and you've got the skills and you've learned that, then there you go. You've got your 12 instead of just your 9.
Yeah.
And or 10, from one in the chamber. But it's it's an interesting system that, if you, like I said, if you want to track that at the TTMG, like you and your friends, when you're playing, you want to, all of it's there. You can just track all of that. The rules are there. The rules are written. The cards, everything is interchangeable. The card for shooting your gun in the role-playing game is the same card that you're going to use for shooting your gun in the miniatures game and in the battle space game. So your character record sheets will have or roster sheets will have different levels of them, like how much you want to track. Like if you just are tracking damage, or if you're doing like the battle space game, it's basically just like boxes that you're checking off as something, a battalion gets depleted, or your Asher is taking damage. But when you're playing the miniatures game or the role-playing game, you care. Again,
Yeah.
I've taken a bunch of damage on my right side. When I come around this corner, I'm presenting my left side so that's where I'm going to be taking the damage.
Yeah.
And those types of things, like allowing people to play tactically, as opposed to just I'm rolling and then I mark down, you've taken 20 damage and it's attrition. Like, okay, great. You want to play that? Do that. If you want to track, like there are within the ACE, again, getting into it, from the role-playing standpoint, every character has, doesn't matter, human, alien, doesn't matter. Every character has 3 stats of physical and 3 stats of mental.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically just, you have quickness, endurance, and strength. And so that's mental quickness, mental endurance, and mental strength, and physical quickness, endurance, and strength. And you have things like your mental health, which is your mental strength plus your mental endurance. And you have physical health, the same thing, it's the endurance plus your strength. As you are doing actions, you're building up effort. And like it's exhaustion type of thing. And so you could potentially, your body could become tired before your mind does. Or if you're really fit, but you don't quite have that mental, like the stamina there, you could, if bad things are happening and stress is occurring, you can become overly stressed before your body is anywhere near being tired, and you shut down or you get demoralized. And so, but even that, like that tracking of that effort, we try and mask that out as you go from the role-playing game up to the battle space. To the battle space, like it's entirely obfuscated into just the turn tracking system, how things work. Mm-hmm. And we're like not really worrying about that nearly as much. There'll be checks on things to see if something happened, but overall, it's just like we want that game to go quickly. But in the miniatures game, again, like somebody becoming tired and having to literally take 2 or 3 impulses, which is a time segment, mm-hmm. to just take a breather, right? And when you think an impulse, which is again that 1 round roughly, is
it like 6 seconds or 2 to 5 seconds?
2 to 5 seconds is roughly what that is. So yeah, it's just like, again, take your breath. It's, you just jogged. You're not going to take a shot, or you are, and it's like if you just shoot right there, you're not as accurate as if you pause, take a breath, and then fire. So really getting people into the mindset of, again, it's just seconds. Like you're just seconds, and you're gonna get to go again shortly.
Mm-hmm. So for like the ammo checks, like if they fail, I think you said it was in the tactical game. So say they fail
Yeah.
and now they're out of ammo. Are they just out of ammo for the rest of the game, or is there like
No,
a save they can make?
yeah, so there's a reload that you would do, and then if you're actually out of ammo, like if you've gone through your magazines, like that one's done. That every Marine, like in the basic set, the four Marines, they're three of them are carrying, I think, like 4 magazines in addition to the one that's in their gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're out of those, like you are out, one person can hand one to another, so you can actually transfer those. The GRD will have reloads in it. So if you can get over that, or you're using that as your cover as you're moving along,
Yeah.
and then you're just like, great. As I expend one, I grab one out and I put it in. I'm going to take the moment to do that action, but now it means when I leave the GRD, I'm still fully stacked. So it's, again, everything is a choice. We want to reinforce the idea that you can make decisions, even bad ones. It's fun. It's good.
Is the effort, is that like something that you actually track? Is it like a fatigue system where like you get so many points of effort and then something gets imposed on you?
Yes. So if you are choosing to track effort, again, even in the tactical miniatures game, I try and keep that even a very, very simplistic. But when you're doing the role playing and really, or choose to really dive into even the tactical miniatures game, and add that in there, yeah, it's essentially, it is an effort. It's a tracker on your roster sheet as you're doing activities or things happen to you. You apply efforts to your character sheet, and it's up and down. You can, one of the actions you can take is just basically just take a breather, right? And you decrease your effort, your stress that's on you. But on that effort tracker, you have things like the checkpoints where you're halfway of your mental health or halfway of your physical health, and if you're beyond that, you're at -1. Like all your target numbers are -1. So you just move from a 3 on your shooting down to a 2 because you're panting, like you are beyond halfway of your full rested state. When you get to the end of that, like you go beyond your actual physical exertion level, it gets worse. And then when you get to a certain amount, it's like you are actually exhausted. The only thing you can do is take the rest action. Nothing else can be done because you're just there. But then you get abilities, role-playing game, or certain characters would have that built in from their cards for the miniatures game of mind over matter type of thing. You're just like, my body may be tired, but my mind is still there. And you've gotten the ability, you've spent the points to get to that ability that says, great, my body's tired, my mind's still fine. I make that check and I keep going. Like I literally push myself beyond my physical capabilities because I've got the mental fortitude to do that, and I've trained to do that. And then it's the same thing of just like, sometimes you might be mentally exhausted and you are like, normally you just would be shut down, but you've gone through the muscle memory, you've taken the skill set, you've trained over and over again. So it's, basically having the ability to just go off of muscle memory, and your body keeps going and doing stuff without your, like the mental creating negative effects of what you're doing, because it's just instinct at that point.
Yeah. So with that, like, it kind of sounds like it reminds me like the fatigue, or the endurance bar, like on a video game where you make an attack and it goes down.
Yep. Yeah.
So with like, if you ended up getting into, I don't know why you would box a fish, but say you got into a fist fight with something, with maybe against a private contracting company, the Spartans, whatever. You started punching somebody. Would that physical exertion of physically fighting, would that affect your effort?
Yeah. So literally every single thing that you do will have a cost of effort. So from throwing punches, kicks, even shooting the weapon is a small amount of effort. Walking, again, like it's effort. It's tiny amounts, and you're not like, walking isn't going to do much for you. You could walk for a really long time so long as you have, normal health.
Yeah.
And that would never do anything for you. But the moment, you got to remember, this isn't normal walking, right? You're walking in a combat situation, which is tiring. Like it's actually fatiguing even to be moving around at all
Yeah.
in a combat situation. So the effort is in everything is there. Uh, you you know, even one of the things that like causes effort is like if you get shot, like it's tiring to get shot, even
Yeah.
if even if you have like armor on and it doesn't go through. Like
Yeah.
getting shot is tiring, both mentally and physically. It hurts,
Yeah.
and so you like literally as you take damage, even if it doesn't go through, you're taking effort. Like if you're tracking effort, like it will wear you out.
Yeah.
You can have a person who hasn't really done anything take a bunch of shots, they don't go through, but they're just like, give me a second. Like,
Get the wind knocked
yeah,
out of you.
yeah, exactly. And like, and so the only thing you can do is pause and take like a breather and before that character can actually do anything, even if they haven't done anything already. So that's the way that effort is built into the system. It is just stress on the body and mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the different checks on there based off of your mental health and your physical health. Of when you reach this, then here's the negative. When you reach this, here's the negative. When you
Mm-hmm.
reach this, you can't do anything except like, yeah.
Have a mental breakdown.
Yeah. Oh, so and there is that too, because there are effects from weapons and effects from um, you your squad mate is killed right next to you, and like that directly impacts you, and so that actually does apply stress to that person, and like there's absolutely uh, things for like confusion and when we get into the role playing game, there's like the concepts of PTSD. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are actual physical and mental things that occur, like happen to a character that they will have to process through. And I
Yeah.
think we got into that a little bit on
Yeah.
the
I
last
think
time.
we touched it
Yeah.
because I think we kind of went over because it's already been touched on in like Tides of Redemption. We kind of see like those physical effects with Natalia when she goes
Yeah.
inside the ship. So we kind of you could just relate that to the game.
Yep. Yeah. So things like if your squad was, or you were ambushed from like behind or something like that, and then especially if you've lost, like you were supposed to be paying attention, you lost one of your teammates or something. Um, like actually getting PTSD, like it's like a card, like it's part of your character now.
Mm-hmm.
But it does things like I'm now hyper vigilant on my peripheral,
Yeah.
right? But when something like shocks into the peripheral, I like freeze for a moment. I notice it, but I freeze. And until you actually take that character and go and like go through therapy and do like the work to do that,
Yeah.
like at that point in time, after you've actually done basically the side quests for that character for getting that specific PTSD, because it'll tell you like what it is that you need to do for it.
Go inside an alien ship.
Yeah. Your negative goes away of that freezing for that moment, but now I still have the hypervigilance where I have a bonus on all the stuff that's peripheral.
Yeah.
So like if you work through your trauma, your character gets better through it. But if you don't, like you're like that's a detriment to not only that character but your entire team.
Yeah. That makes me think of something. What let's say like you're in the RPG mode and your arm gets blown off and you don't die and you get back to the med tent and you get a sweet is there a bionic arm stat? Like because Natalia Falto karate chopped that boss in the face.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Right. Yes. So absolutely, every one of those things, character modifications or the bionics that are in there, not just for Falto, but Antonio and like the people who've got that. Those things have stats. Those things modify that character and what they can do. I think we talked briefly before, also part of the A system, those 6 stats that you have, they're scaled. So essentially 0 is human baby incapacitated type of thing, up to 100, which is peak human physical or mental.
I think
capacity.
like a running speed of 100 would be like Usain what's his name?
Bolt.
Yeah,
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt. That's his name.
And the strength, like the 100 strength is what's his name? Thor. Not not
The
Marvel
mountain.
Thor. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That type, yeah. Strongman competition, strongest. What is it? Like I think he just like 500 kilos or like just insane.
Pull a bus
Um,
with his teeth.
right, yeah. So like that's peak human. But you get you get juicers, you get
I was gonna ask you,
it,
is it juicers
yeah.
that you
No, and that's not yeah. But yes, so you can literally
or
like you
pumpers? It's called pumpers, right?
pumpers is what
Yeah.
we call them in the books, yeah. Um, and so you pump up and like you're actually above like even the mountain. Like you're stronger for a brief period of time, but that's going to wear you out. Like if you in battle, sure that goes for a little bit. You're essentially berserk a bit and you're stronger, but when that wears out, like if your effort level is above like because you increase your physical strength. Increasing physical strength modifies your physical health to be higher than what it is. And when that drops back down, if the damage that you took
Mm,
or the effort that you took is now above where your health just dropped
it
back
all
down,
slides down.
like yeah, you basically you're incapacitated immediately or you're dead immediately. Like it,
Yeah.
and I know my family was like I come from a line of police and they were detectives in Las Vegas during the Rat Pack era and well afterwards. And they, talked about the story, and a lot of people have heard this, type of thing before. Of like they encountered a guy who was just high on PCP, right? And they, unfortunately, like had to shoot, and so and it was like a whole bunch of police, and the guy just kept coming, and
Yeah.
they unloaded on him, and he just kept coming, and then like the dude's already dead, but like he just does not know it unless you hit like an off switch.
Yeah.
Like they're just going to keep going, and um, so yeah, it's like that concept of like okay, so somebody who roids up, and then like they're bleeding or damage or like they're
Yeah.
just whatever they've taken that all the effort and exertion that they've done, and then when that stuff wears off, like it is not going to look pretty when you drop
That's
down.
bad hangover.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody like your medic is running behind them, like stim packing them, like come on,
Yeah.
go, go, go,
You
go,
got to get a
go.
self-injecting backpack for stems.
Yes, that's Bane right there.
Yeah. Maybe JTech will come up with a little more refined serum, get like a Captain America
Yeah,
thing going. I
right,
don't know.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Long term, long term.
Get
Yeah.
rid of the shakes. All right. Are you guys doing any more demos? I know you guys had that one in Washington last summer.
We don't have one scheduled just yet. I am working on like my biggest task right now is for the Patreon getting the quick rules, and I'll have the quick rules for movement. Those are almost finished up. And then the next one is coming out the next two that are coming out is the sequence of play and the terms. So basically just kind of want to get those out quickly. So we're ready to move into getting some of these rules out to people to start playing around with and getting us feedback on, rather than doing another demo that's an open demo. We'll still be doing those and be looking to meet up with people and play. I just don't have anything scheduled just yet.
Mm-hmm.
The shifts at my day job was really taking me by storm for a bit there, and being able to finally get back and really start focusing on the game has been really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish like creative people could just not have to worry about day jobs.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
That'd be really nice.
We all need to get together. Everyone needs to get together and I don't know, send like a letter to Elon, see if he can just pay our way.
Just yeah. Move it from the federal into individuals.
Yeah. So you mentioned movement. Is it going to be kind of like, I don't remember if we talked about it last time. Is it going to be kind of like Warhammer where you have a tape measure and there's a certain amount of inches your guy can move?
So I'm going to focus most here on the tabletop, the miniatures game, because that's the first one we're releasing and has a lot of the kind of combination of the two different sides. It's kind of the Goldilocks, in my opinion, of how things work for play plus speed. And that uses a mechanic called our zones. So a zone is a single hex with the 6 surrounding hexes. So it's a 7 hex like tile. And movement is here, actually, let me do this. Let me read this out to you as it is on there, and you tell me if any of this is confusing, even though this is entirely in your head. So good luck with this. Let's see if this is gonna turn out all right. But everybody will tell you I'm perfectly happy being wrong. So it's as much as I've been wrong in my life, I just got used to it. See here, making sure I've got the right one. Here we go.
I get recruit brain when I get asked questions on live stream, so it could be a really simple question. I'll just I'll freeze up.
All right, can you still see me?
No, you're dark.
Okay, just 1 second. I wanted to pull this up, and for some strange reason, it's not allowing me to pull it up on. Oh, there we go. I'm back. All right, there we go.
Sweet.
All right. So let's start off with, I'm sure somebody's going to screenshot this. This is fine. This is going out to our Patreon here shortly. And there we go.
There we go.
And it's going to be blurry, and I'm leaving it intentionally blurry. This is that's the slide for the quick rules for movement. So a battle space, the battle space is made up of groups of hexes called zones. Okay. A character's movement represents how many zones it can move in one action. Mm-hmm. For example, a Marine in any hex of Zone A, okay, don't mind that, has a move action with a walk, run, sprint movement of 1, 2, or 3. When taking the walk action, the Marine may move to any open hex in Zone B, which is 1 away. So again, the biggest thing to remember is instead of counting per hex, it's literally just quick. I'm moving from anywhere in this zone to anywhere in that zone.
Any open space?
Any open space, correct. Now you have to fit entirely on the map, but you don't have to fit entirely within one zone. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, a crab with 4 base hexes could potentially be in 3 zones. You can't really be in 4 just because there's no 4-way, meetup of zones there. But it could be in 3 different zones. Mm-hmm. And when it's in those zones, it's considered adjacent to all of the other characters in those zones. So that becomes both a benefit and a drawback at certain points in time. And you can do things like spreading your units out in that zone to make it so that something can't entirely get in.
Okay.
And so it's like basically if its back half is in the previous zone, when it goes to move again, if it's trying to get through to the other side, it can't, because that's an extra movement. It still has to get its back half into that zone. So that's still a movement of 1.
So it's still technically in the zone it was in. Like it hasn't.
Yeah.
You have to completely leave it to be in the new zone.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Even though again it's adjacent to all those things, it's still in Zone B, but it's still in Zone A, so it can't move all the way to Zone C type, that many away. But that's the basics of movement, is just this concept of I'm going to take the walk action, the move action of walk, mm-hmm. and that has X amount of effort. If you're tracking effort, it has X amount of kind of speed, like how many that's going to go, and that will be different based off of the character. And then it will have X amount of time it takes to do that. And that's that impulse concept, right? So again, if I'm moving 30 feet at a walk, you can easily say, okay, that's roughly, 10 seconds or whatever that is. So that's roughly 2 impulses, right? That's between 2 and 5 impulses. So again, we are able to play around with that to make it so that this dude's pretty quick. So that his impulse cost to do that walk is only, say, 3, and somebody else might be 4. And somebody who's really kind of quick, but still not really fast, might still just be on a walk, 2 for the impulse cost to do that. Even though it's the same distance, they don't get to act again until they come up on the tracker. Mm-hmm. So they're taking that whole time to walk. They can still react during that time if they're quick enough. So they're walking from Zone A to Zone B, and something happens, they can then take a reaction in that to try and do something, but they're committed to their walk during that time.
Okay, so when it's your turn and you say like you can take the walk action, do you only
Yeah.
get one action, or are there several actions you can take in a turn?
On on a character's activation, they get to play. So that gets into the sequence of play. So every single impulse, when you get to that impulse, there's two phases. There's the again, because my head will go to a whole bunch of different things, and I want to say things properly. uh, do, 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 do. There we go. So you have the planning phase, which every single character that's going to be active on that impulse, they all take their decks, which is again all of the available cards of the actions and equipment that they have,
Mm-hmm.
and they place one of them face down on their character sheet or the roster sheet. And everybody does that. That has a character that's active in that impulse. Once everybody has decided what they're doing, that's fog of war type of thing, then you all turn them up as that character based like resolves that. So then you get into the execution phase, which is basically by everybody decides which card they're going to play in order of mental quickness. So the faster you are, you get to wait and delay to do that. So everybody, like starting from the slowest, everybody decides what they're going to do. And then in the execution phase, they're all resolved in order of physical quickness. So the faster one is going to actually do their action first. No matter where they had to think about it, they're going to resolve theirs first. So it's important to potentially stack up or make sure you're going in the right order and which impulse, because if I need to move faster than you, I better be doing something, and you're faster than me, I need to do it in the impulse before you're going to do that thing.
Yeah.
So, but when you do it, you get one action, and then you can have reactions. It's two different types of things. So like walking is an action. Shooting is a reaction. I can walk and shoot at the same time. I can take cover and shoot at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I can aim while walking. I can talk. I can do I can reload type of, like, all of these things can be done while. So some cards are action cards, one per activation. Reaction cards you can stack on top of that up until basically you've like you can't do unlimited reactions. We have a tracker for or not tracker, but you expend that and you just can't do that. But when you're doing those in reactions, again, it stacks up also the impulses that you're taking. So if you end up doing a bunch of things, you're not going to go again for another, say, 5-6 impulses, and other characters are going to go maybe 2-3 times before you get to go again. Mm-hmm. And so it's, again, a tactical decision in any of those moments. Do I want to try and do the big thing or all of the things right now and commit to that when now everybody's going to be able to react or act like a whole bunch of times? And you'll see that in things like the crabs have one of their attacks is like a slam. But the requirements for the slam is it's got to rear up. So in one of the impulses, it'll take the action of rear up. And now, hopefully, your characters will be able to go before it gets its next action, which is the body, like the big slam, because it's going to hit everybody around it. Yeah. You're like, oh, crap. And literally back away from the crab, or everybody shoot it now before it's exposed. It's, the softer underside. Yeah. If we all focus fire, maybe we can kill it before it does the slam.
Yeah.
So I wanted to build in this mechanic of time is a resource, just like any of the other resources of your strength, of your bullets, of any of that. So that's what that impulse system does. Is it's going to be kind of Final Fantasy VII-esque of the bars and the meters. Oh, I'm going to get to go again before he does. Oh, if I do the thing that I wanted to do right now, I'm not going to be able to act again before they go. So maybe I just duck for a moment, allow them to do, he's prepping to, I know that he could do, the acid cloud or a spray or the needle or, the shot out. I'm going to take cover until they do that, and then I'm going to pop up and try and fire. So like really trying to get into feeling close to real-time combat within a turn-based strategy game.
So is that like you said, like you keep the kind of the cards, I guess, close to your chest and put them face down? Is that assuming you're like in the RPG where you have other players, or is that
Well,
like when
when
you're
you're playing
playing?
against, yeah, even on the TTMG, which is more of a versus game. So with the TTMG is more designed like um, BattleTech Alpha Strike or Mech Clicks, where it's like I've got a small army, you've got a small army. We
Okay.
just play 15 minutes to a half an hour, and the winner, goes. It's Magic Night, or Friday Night Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like it's playing against somebody. The winner gets to move on.
Gotcha.
So we wanted to design it to allow for competitive play, not just role playing game or playing through scenarios, kind of campaign world type thing. So you are playing often in the TTMG against someone, whether that's the bisque or a player, and so you're doing those things and putting them face down. But then that's actually one of the other mechanics is if I've got a scout GRD, or very similar to the Aliens Fox, who's the intel gatherer, if they've got one on the board that's viewing you, when you choose your card, it doesn't go face down.
Oh, really? Face up, huh?
It's intel.
That's
So they
awesome.
they get so they're gonna like, nope, sorry, they can see that character, they can see what's gonna happen, so you're gonna play that face up. And now, I see what you're gonna do, and I'm actually I'm like, we've got some characters that are mentally quicker. I'm actually gonna change, like I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna do this so that now I can act. Like I now know not only what you're going to do as your main action, not all the things that you're gonna do to react, but your main action is gonna be, am I quicker than you or am I not quicker than you? Am I going to get to do something before that, or am I going to have to react to that? And so that's like, even in the phase of the planning phase, that's where a lot of the strategy happens. And then the execution phase is still, that's more of the tactics. Like, okay, I moved forward, I rounded this corner. Am I going to take this shot, or am I going to trust that the next person's going to be able to take that shot because I need to be, doing what my mission was, which is to get over there? Am I going to stop, lay down cover fire so that they can move past? There's a whole bunch of different things that, we're trying to make feel like when you're breaching, when you're room clearing, when you're in an open field and, get ambushed. Like we wanted all of those things to feel the same as those different types of scenarios, and have mechanics that reinforce what it feels like to be in those situations. And I want it to get to a point where, like, my friends who are from the military have looked at that and gone, yeah, that's, I would do that, and I can do that. I wouldn't do that, but I still can do that. It's like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Like I said, we want to give people the ability to make horrible decisions because they think that it might work, or because it needs to happen. Like, and I often go back to playing. I mentioned this last time. Is I've played with Brent in gaming for a long time, and he'll often say, like, don't do this, and then he'll do it. Like, you're like, dude, and they're like, you just got shot up so bad. He's like, yeah, but it was really cool. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it really was.
So when you say, like, you play during the plan phase and you're putting your cards down, once that card hits the table, is it down? Like, there's no going
It's
back?
it's down. That's correct. That's fog of war. You, in a moment, in an impulse, you have a decision to make. I'm going to do this thing, and you start to do it, right? Like, I'm choosing to do this thing. You didn't know what everybody else was going to be doing. You have some ideas what people were already doing, because, again, like, if you're walking and that walk takes two impulses, then that walk is on your sheet face up until you reach your next impulse. So all the modifiers for doing your ace checks for like, if you're walking, you get to clearly see this person was walking or this person was sprinting.
Mhm.
and that's there for everything they're going to do. It might make some things easier, like if you were doing a jump action, like to jump over something, the fact that you were running would give you a positive benefit for that versus a walk. But
Mhm.
if you're shooting, that same thing becomes a negative for that action that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
it's like it's just sitting there and like, and I'm running, and somebody steps out, and like I'm not going to stop running. I'm just going to fire because I'm in the mode of what I'm doing
Yeah.
until you actually get to the point of finishing or being able to change that. And again, abilities, so much of this game is around the customization of your characters. So being able to get to the point of like, I need to slide cancel, and or or just like I'm running, and like I do have the ability to interrupt myself from what it was I was doing. Like that's an ability. People get to that point if you've been in combat a lot, if
Mhm.
you've trained for something, if you've had something happen to you to make you realize that. That's how you get better at things. So we wanted to make it be kind of like this use-based skill system of kind of growing and getting better at things, and um, stat-based for your actual ability to accomplish something. So those abilities really make a difference for your success in accomplishing things and what the outcome of that skill or that check was.
Yeah. Well, that sounds fun. I'm super jazzed for this to come out. Let's see what else I got here. As far as like the different zones go, so as far as like weapon range, whether it be a melee attack or a ranged attack, obviously range is the range. But if you're
Mhm.
like, what's the rule with like how close do you have to be? Like you just have to be in the same zone to do like
Correct.
to physically attack
Yep.
somebody.
Yeah. So you are considered adjacent to everybody in a zone that you occupy.
Okay.
So that the concept is um, that zone is a zone and you're moving through it, around it, or whatever. So it's not a look at like I wanted to get out of the idea of turn-based combat the way that most people are familiar with.
Hmm.
So when you say like I walk up to this hex, now I'm here until my next turn, and you are over, like no, like it's combat is fluid. You're in this area
Hmm.
doing something, and they're in this area doing something. At any point in time, you might be right next to each other, and that's about your intent and the actions you're taking. Um, you can do things like, uh, no, there's an obstacle in this zone, and
Hmm.
I'm using that obstacle for protection, or I'm behind it, so nothing can directly come at me and, excuse me, um, have protection unless, like, we've seen that, the foxes be up on walls and crabs be on walls and stuff like that. So they're going to be using some of the terrain that we're not able to use as humans.
Mm.
And they're just like, it slows me down, but it doesn't stop me. And,
Yeah.
the concept of like, oh, crap. Like I was backed up against a wall for protection, and then there's something above me or it comes around the corner on the wall when you're aiming at the ground.
Yeah.
It's like, crap.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the concept of range is, yeah, if you're in a zone, if one of your base hexes occupies a zone, you are considered in base contact with any other character that has a hex in that zone, a base
Hmm.
hex in that zone. Range for weapons is essentially um, weapons shoot far. Like, yeah, thrown things have like zone ranges that are shorter, right?
Yeah.
It's, again, you're actually trying to throw stuff, but a gun's going to shoot hundreds of yards, and a standard battlefield is not that large. Like you're shooting way beyond that. So
Yeah.
what you have is ranged. So each weapon does have its characteristics for targeting at different ranges. So a pistol shooting at even 100 feet while you're standing is not nearly as accurate as a rifle, or something that has a buttstock, or or if you're kneeling, or like, so those are again the circumstances of your shot. So the each of the weapons have characteristics. The at range one, like what is short, medium, and long range type of thing, and
Hmm.
or an extreme. And so if I'm firing my pistol and it's at short range, that's fine, that's normal. But when I go to medium range, it's like it degrades. Like it'll tell you like that's like you're going to adjust your die size. You know, your depending on what the things are. You know, your target number is going to change.
Yeah.
But then you've got, and you know, you've got a sniper rifle. You're walking around with your big 50 cal, you know, BMG, and somebody gets into base contact with you. That's not easy to shoot them with that. Like it becomes like, so the immediate contact range for that one is actually a huge negative.
Yeah.
And it gets better after a certain number of hexes and then starts to go negative again. It's like, this is where it's very easy for me to shoot. That it's about being, you know, like abstracting away that how easy or difficult something is. You've got things like some of the bullpup rifles when you go full automatic at short range or like immediate range, not just short, but like if you're in base contact in the same zone and you go full auto, there's no difference in your die size. Like they're designed to go to burst or full auto and be very accurate at those short ranges. Don't try and do that at long ranges. They're horrible at it.
Yeah.
But like it's different weapons, different characters, different abilities make it so that, and the circumstances make it so that you as a player have to make decisions. And what are the best decisions that I can make in this given moment with what I have? Am I going to take the action to swap weapons because I have a sniper rifle and a fox is coming up to me and I better pull out my pistol? Because there's like, I'm not going to, when it's zigzagging at me with my sniper rifle, I'm not going to be able to move it fast enough to shoot at it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need to draw my sidearm and then focus my fire on it. So, but like it might take 2 or 3 shots from your pistol to actually take it out. Whereas if you do get the one good shot from your rifle, it would kill it instantly. So it's like, what do I feel like doing? And the other player playing the fox is going, I'm going to charge. Like I'm going to go, even though I'm only one zone away, I'm going to take the all-out move action. So I'm moving as fast as possible so that you trying to hit me is really difficult.
Yeah.
Until I come up on the impulse tracker again, I've been sprinting that whole time.
Yeah.
And it's, even though it's only one zone, that's me zigzagging. That's me taking all this action to do that, even though it's a short distance between us, so that you have a really difficult time shooting at me until I get to go again. And now I'm in base contact. And now I'm going to try and like, you know, claw you, bite you, and do that damage. So it's, again, these mechanics aren't just for humans. They're all of these things are the exact same mechanics for the aliens and their weapons, both melee and, you know, that's one of the reasons why we had to build a modern combat system that takes it into account melee. It's like, well, pretty much, you know, like the beginning waves of the aliens, it's a lot of melee from them and being in that close contact. And so it had to be built into our game mechanics from the get-go of, this is what hand-to-hand or physical combat is. And in the role-playing game, I love the way that hand-to-hand combat feels, because it feels exactly like sparring.
Yeah.
Where you are like, okay, I'm doing a light strike. I'm fainting. I'm doing these other things, and it takes time and it takes effort. And you might wear yourself out by, you know, like you could literally use Ace to do a boxing match between 2 characters who are skilled boxers, and like see like, oh, you're stronger, but you have very low endurance, and so it's like literally like wearing people out and moving around. And so it's one of the first things that I did to show how movement worked within the role-playing game was set up an obstacle course and have people go through it. And just like the fast people might wear themselves out before they get to the end of it if they just sprint the entire time.
Yeah.
So then they've got to like tortoise and hare. They get to the end and they're just like, I can't quite make it. So they've got to take 2-3 impulses to rest to get back down. And then the people who are just like jogging and pass them up, and you're just like, you know, it's not just about doing the fastest action or the strongest action. It's what can I actually do and sustain? What can I do to, like, again, accomplish my goals with the least effort possible?
Yeah. Playing strategic.
Yep.
So you're talking about the sniper rifle. It made me think so. And like you talk about the one character like hiding behind an object in the same zone as an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So how does terrain and so say if like I'm a sniper and I want to get up on top of a building, but I'm still technically in the same zone as someone on the floor or on the ground.
Correct.
Like how does that work?
So you can, one of the things, Blaine had this idea from the very beginning of wanting the map to be interactive and doing things like almost like when you get to a spot, there would be like a pool of dice that you'd be able to use from that spot. And we've modified that a little bit to be more in the line of the mechanics of that circumstances, right? So having an elevated position tends to be beneficial in certain circumstances. So one, you have better line of sight on things. So that means you can actually, take your shots carefully. But also you get kind of the same type of thing of you have potentially on the situation, you have more cover, right? And we wanted to dive into things like there's a difference between cover and protection, right? Cover is concealment and that's a different thing than actual protection. Armor.
You can stand behind a sheet of paper and be covered.
Exactly. I wouldn't, if you're behind a giant sheet of paper and I couldn't see through it, I wouldn't know where I was shooting at you. But if I do hit where you are, it's like the paper does nothing.
Yeah.
So there are rules for concealment versus protection of like armor, and that concealment is, again, it's just an adjustment in the circumstances, so it changes like die type. I'm the same thing for like if I'm even in an open field, if I lay, and I'm getting to your actual question, if I'm in an open field and I am laying down, I am now a small target versus a medium-sized target. Shooting at a small target adjusts the die size just automatically. It just from medium to a small, it adjusts it by 1. Shooting at large things like crabs adjusts the die size down by 1. So it's like instead of a D10 on your normal shot, when you're shooting at a crab, it's a D8 because that's a larger thing.
Yeah.
You're shooting at the huge turtles. It's like, those are huge. Like that's, again, missing the broadside of a barn type of thing. Like I can hit it. It's probably not going to do much unless I've got a good weapon. But
yeah.
But again, like that, it's so those types of things of having terrain. The zones will have items in them or features to them in a given zone. There'll be a low wall, and that low wall on that zone might say, like have 2 hexes in that zone that provide a medium creature or medium like cover that's low cover. And what that means is like it both has its own damage that like you could basically take that out. It's destructible environment, and it no longer provides that cover benefit. But what it literally does is that zone has its own card that is low cover. And so now, as the player, I got to that zone. I'm taking that specific hex, basically, that says I get this card. I now have, when it's on my turn or whatever, I can play I'm taking cover, and it modifies my taking cover action instead of just being like I'm smaller target. Now when I take cover, it gives me X amount of protection of like basically armor and X amount of concealment. So like I can play that, and now that I'm taking cover and that's sitting up on my roster sheet, anybody shooting at me is going to have to modify by that until that thing is destroyed.
Okay, so that makes sense. So like it doesn't matter what the actual miniatures line of sight is. So like it could be behind you on the same side of the cover, but because you have the cover, you get the benefit.
Correct. Yeah. Cool. Again, the concept of a zone being very fluid in the way people are. We're not trying to do line of sight. Line of sight is by zone. Like there's not something blocking that zone. I have line of sight. Yeah. And part of that is, and that's different in the role playing game, right? Because the role playing, we're very, very tracking everything, but we wanted a game that moved quickly.
Yeah.
Again, like this is one of those ones where both Blaine and Brent were, we have an idea of the game should take this amount of time and we don't want it bogging down. We are like, that's one of the reasons why we're doing zones, and it's a movement of 1, 2, or 3. If you've played games where, characters have a movement of 17 and people go, 1, 2, 3, no, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, turn 5, no, okay. It's literally just like, you got a movement of 1. Are you going forward? Are you standing still? Like, are you going to actually run? And then you've got a movement of 2, like that type of thing. And it's a decision of like, do I want to spend the time to do that, or do I want to stand still and do something? It's a choice at this point, but you're not bogged down with that decision of, okay, if I move over here, like, again, if you're going to move a 1, and even if you've got that your zone is entirely surrounded by 6 other ones, like, you can go one of 6 places, like, that's freaking it. Just and it's pretty clear at that point, like, I don't want to move that way. So yeah, we're trying to speed up gameplay a lot with the zone design, and then that gets into the line of fire. So when I'm shooting at something, it's like, it's fluid. You were walking from here to there at some point, like, I'm taking a reaction. You moved into a zone that I'm my field of vision is that whole zone easily.
Yeah.
So you step into it and I was waiting, I'm firing like that. And then that also allows, like, the zones are really give us the ability to do things like area effects. So I throw a grenade, it's into a zone, right? It's not all over the place. It's I'm hitting a zone with that thing, like, and it might only hit, again, based on the size of the explosive, that is the damage. When we talked about before, the damage template, like how much it's going to do and how much area, and how, like, how big that template is for that damage that's being spread out. So again, the zone concept and terrain within it is basically like, first come, first serve. I got the thing, and it is the benefit. But you don't just get to go from ground floor up to I moved into a hex, and there's
I'm on top of the Empire State Building.
Yeah, and now I'm on top of that. It's not like that. You've got to have the ability to get to there, and you'll see things like a squad working together to lift up their sniper to be up on top of like, going in from the backside and getting them up on top of a building. And like, that's checks, right? I'm lifting you and you're lifting yourself up. Did we succeed? Great. I'm taking that risk right now because we're going to get a benefit of you being up there while we then go around to the other side. So every one of those things is risk reward. And we wanted to make sure that those players felt that in any given situation, is it worth it? And then make that decision to try, and then, I'm a horrible roller, so then I fail.
Nice. So on that token is with like them cooperating to take, an objective or a benefit in the zone. Say if you had a unit or a character or whatever, a mini in that zone, and you were on the tile that has a benefit, but you don't have a feature or whatever to take advantage of it, can you block an enemy from accessing it?
So no, if that feature is there, again, because you're not taking up that hex, as soon as you get to the zone, you can be anywhere kind of in that zone, but saying like,
it's first come, first served. As long as you're in the zone,
you can exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But if, again, even if you and I are on the same side and I get there first, I might not want to take it, even though it's first come, first serve. I might want, because you have something that we need you to be protected. I'm not going to take that. I'm good getting to that zone, and I'm basically there to protect it so that you can get to that spot and get behind cover so that I can continue moving on. Again, I'm on the Asher. I step in. I'm like, I got this. You guys come on up. And then, all right, now I move on, or I'm just going to stand here and deliver. And now you have a protected area that you can, sit and shoot from.
Nice. Well, I think, I don't know if I got any more. Is there anything else that I guess I don't know what I don't know. Is there anything else about the system that we need to know?
Let me see. Let's see. We're going to do, like I said, the sequence of play is coming out real fast for the Patreon, which also will include the setup instructions for how to actually like set up the board, like how get into the gameplay
Mm-hmm.
or before gameplay. And then movement, again, those are the first two ones. We want to kind of get people going in that and knowing how mechanics work of just being able to move around and move through the zones. And then we'll start to release the things like how to fire and how to attack melee. And I think we've got I think I've got two more 3D miniatures coming out for the Patreons here in the next week. And the scaling issues that we had, I think I've got resolved. So we'll get, I think, the Lion re-released here shortly. And some other cool minis going out.
Nice. I know I talked to Head Blaine on. He mentioned they're working on doing a threat assessment for the fish. Is that going to tie into the game, like the stats and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. So the threat assessment, actually, he sent that over a couple weeks ago for me to review to make sure that everything that we had for stats for the aliens were in line with what we had, because we're highly collaborative. We want these things to be as tight as possible for between the books and between all of the different things. So no, absolutely. I had minor tweaks on like the grip strength of the pincer on the crab.
Yeah.
Like we're getting to the bite force of the fox. Like we are absolutely like looking at all of these things, the weight of the boss, like these things to make sure that like, okay, not only do they make sense in real world, but making sure that within the game mechanics, like these things are doable, playable, and enjoyable.
Yeah. Actually, like talking about the boss's weight, someone in the chat kind of mentioned the size of the crabs and maybe if they can climb on walls. Are there some walls that won't be able to bear their weight? That'll be a thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. And again, in the miniatures game, the tactical miniatures, we're going to make that a little bit easier, just summarize a lot of that to try and make it so that, again, it's not going to be like, well, the structural integrity of a modern stick-built house is, like is it drywall? Is it, like, oh, no, this one's got the concrete on the outside, concrete siding. Like, we're gamers and nerds, and some of us will dive into that, but we want to try and leave that more for that role-playing game and make the TTMG fast-paced and easily digestible. Mm-hmm. So it'll be obfuscated a bit there, but no, absolutely, concepts of what can and can't support, what they can and can't even dig into, like if it's potentially like the glass, like you said Empire State Building, and they're like trying to climb up the glass and they're just shattering it and not being able to climb, versus that, we want to have all that be there. That's down the road. Like that's a lot of writing and a lot of rules to make sure that they're all good. Mm-hmm. The miniatures game, again, is supposed to be that digestible half-hour play time.
Yeah.
And fun competitive play or scenario based like campaign play.
Yeah, they need to have like do you watch or do you know about like 40K in 40 minutes? It's like a YouTube channel. They basically do like Warhammer matches where they condense it down to 40 minutes. We need to get something going like with Land and Sea, because I would watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, that's my biggest goal was that, or one of my biggest goals was that amount of time. I'm a huge, again, I played Magic the Gathering competitively for, a decade and a half, and all the other like TCGs or CCGs. And there's this idea, there's something fun about going to your local game store, sitting down for a tournament and, playing, knowing that you're going to get through 6 rounds, in an evening or 5 rounds or whatever. And it's just, there's something fun about that, knowing that you're going to do something different, like play against different armies and strategies and people, and learn potentially. Like I know your I know how you think. I know your tactics. I know your deck, or I know your army, and really kind of play around with that concept and make it so that it is again, digestible. It's episodic. You sit down, I play with this, and I learn each time too that I play. Like, oh, okay, so my my enemy um, is using this set of zones when they place their zones, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna need to, like, I know if there's a swamp zone, like all my troops are going to be really bogged down in it. So last time I got stuck in it, and like it slowed me down, and it made my effort spike, and it made my movement slow. So they were able to just pick me off. And it was like, okay, so I'm going around that, or do I have something to combat that? And it really is, again, I think we talked about before that the strategy begins one when you make your army, but then the next one is like when you assemble the actual game board, and when you're placing those zones out there, and people are bringing stuff that is going to benefit them or hinder the current meta. Like the battlefield is, choosing your battlefield is important, right?
Yeah.
Just ask Julius Caesar or Napoleon or anybody who's tried to cross the Caucasus Mountains in the winter. But it's big. Choosing your battlefield is hugely important, and that's literally part of your army that you're bringing, is saying like, oh, I've got a command. I'm literally bringing a command tent because it gives me this benefit, and like all my communications are better, or whatever. And so I've got the zone, and like the other person goes, got it. Guess where my first RPG is going, or got it. Like I'm sprinting in to try and take that because I want that benefit. Or you playing, if some of the modes are like capture the flag. So like, okay, we're on opposite ends, and we're going to go and try and take that objective point and then hold it for X number of rounds. Like, okay, great. That's, how do I block you from doing that, or how do I enable me to do that?
Yeah.
And that's going to be an important aspect of play, is battlefield setup.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm jacked. Are you I know you guys got more of the actual mini, like the playable minis coming out. Are you guys going to be working on terrain, or is that something you're going to outsource, or just pick you up your own terrain kind of thing?
So we've got zones, or original zones, especially for the print and play that's on the Patreon, are just going to be basically like printable zones, not 3D printable, but just printable zones. We've done a lot of talk about how we want to do terrain and zones. We've gone back and forth. I think we're talking with a couple different manufacturers. We've done, we did our own miniatures for BattleTech a couple of years ago. So we've got some of the capability in house to do small quantities of them. But if we were scaling up for a larger game, we're going to want to work with somebody on it. And then we've also, one of the big things that we wanted to do was allow people to play with stuff they already have. Like if it's in this scale, why don't we want people to be able to play with like even their miniatures that they have from other games, like just bring them over, play with them. Like we want people to be having fun. We've been very friendly for, 3D printer friendly for our, our fans, and like both in terms of our miniatures, and we want them to, if something is the same scale and you want to build, like you want to bring in, I'm trying to think of something from, like you want to bring in a Space Marine, right? Go ahead, bring your Space Marine in, and let's work on, especially when you get the actual, like the RPG rulebook, so you can start making your own characters. Let's allow you to do that. Let's create this as a system that is open for people to enjoy what the fantasies that they want to enjoy. Land and Sea is our gateway for the ACE system, but the whole point was to develop a system that is skinnable or just open for people to utilize and play and enjoy in the way that they want to play games.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think that's all I got. We're about at an hour and a half, so I really appreciate you coming on. That was informative, and I'm just excited to get this game and start playing and painting some minis.
Yeah, my pleasure. And again, thanks for moving this a night. I highly appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Well, you have a great night.
All right, Bruce, you too, man.
Yeah, see you later.
Thank you.